Well, there soon could be a pill to treat COVID-19, not a vaccine, but something to actually treat those who are infected. The pharmaceutical company Merck is asking U.S. regulators to approve an antiviral drug it developed for adults. Merck says in its trials the pill cut hospitalizations and deaths by half among patients with early symptoms. So when might this drug be available in Canada? Jennifer Chan is the Vice President of Policy and Government Affairs at Merck Canada, and she's in Montreal. Jennifer, I got to start with what I hear this drug being called, a Trojan horse. How does it work? Why is it called that?
Thanks, David. So this drug is called molnupiravir. Molnu comes from it's related to some mythology, Thor. So I think some people refer to that. So molnupiravir essentially is an investigational oral antiviral treatment for COVID-19. Basically, how it works is it essentially inserts itself into the virus RNA. So this is the virus that's the cause of the COVID-19. And it causes errors in the virus replication process so that the virus can't replicate. And so it can't spread within the body and make patients sick. So this is the mechanism of action of this molnupiravir.
Okay, can we talk about efficacy? Because, I think there is, I suppose, a risk that some people who are not taking a vaccine now will hear about this drug and think it's somehow a miracle cure, but it is not that.
So first, I want to say that vaccines are critical. They are crucial to preventing a spread and causing more severe cases of COVID-19. And so we really do encourage everyone who can get the vaccine to get vaccinated. We know that vaccines have been, one of the most, important public health achievements, and they are very effective in preventing the spread. And so that's number one. Now, we know that nonetheless, though, however, there will still be a need for treatments that will help patients who get COVID-19. And we know that the virus is still circulating. And therefore, we believe that we need tools in the toolbox. So these additional therapeutic treatment options, such as molnupiravir, to also be part of that armamentarium of fighting COVID-19. So it's the vaccines and other tools in the toolbox.
Okay, and based on the clinical trials you've done so far, how effective is it?
So on October 1st, Merck announced our interim results from our phase 3 study for molnupiravir. Basically, this was a study in adult, non-hospitalized patients at risk with mild to moderate COVID-19. What the interim results demonstrated is that molnupiravir essentially reduced the risk of hospitalization or deaths by approximately 50% in these patients.
Okay. Just in terms of the data, so, this has gone to, as you say, phase 3 trials. It's not yet approved for use. That process is set to get underway. But it also has not yet been peer reviewed. But there has been a press release that went out. There hasn't been a preprint released. And that actually has happened with a number of products, medications included. I'm wondering why the data sort of has not been released out there for the wider scientific community before peer review, or at least simultaneous with peer review. Why is that? Why has a preprint not been made available?
So the interim data will be presented at an upcoming medical congress. And basically, we're anticipating that the final results for the study will be available by the end of this year. So what we're in fact doing around the world is we are actually filing this data to regulatory bodies around the world seeking authorization and approval.
Okay, you've done that now with Health Canada. Do you have a sense, if all goes well, when approval might take place?
I can't comment on the timing, but what I can tell you, David, is that we are working with Health Canada through a rolling submission process in which we are submitting the data into Health Canada as it becomes available. So all the safety, quality, and efficacy information. And this enables us to get the data into Health Canada as it is evolving and as the later stage clinical trials are ongoing. We are working and we're very committed to ensuring that Health Canada receives all of the evidence and all of the data that they require. But ultimately, and I can't speak on behalf of Health Canada, but ultimately they will need to review and make the final decision in terms of approval for molnupiravir once they've received all of the required information.
Okay, so you've submitted the data that you have to this point to regulators like Health Canada, but you say it won't be released publicly until closer to the end of the year. So does that mean you don't anticipate that you would have approval anywhere before the end of the year? Or are we going to have a scenario where you could have approval, but the wider scientific community has not had the chance to see the data?
So the data will actually be released at a scientific meeting that's upcoming. Mm-hmm. So that will go to the scientific community.
When is that? When is it?
So it's in November. I believe it's in November. Yes.
Okay. Yes. And then there's just a question of availability. So whenever, if we get to approval and whenever we get to approval, is Merck now in the process of negotiating with the Canadian government to purchase some supplies of this?
So we are in active discussions with the government of Canada to basically look at securing an agreement to secure supply for molnupiravir for Canada.
How much would a treatment cost? I see in the United States you're about $700 for each treatment, and the U.S. signing a deal for about 1.7 million courses of that treatment. Do you have a sense of what the costing would be? Same sort of thing in Canada?
So we're committed to making molnupiravir globally available and also addressing the affordability. So we will really be working with governments all around the world, and we will be looking at a tiered pricing strategy, which will essentially look at the World Bank data, which really looks at the relative ability of countries to finance their COVID response and their health systems. And so we can ensure that affordability is addressed through this tiered pricing strategy.
How low could that potentially go? Because clearly it's $700 in some poorer nations where vaccines are largely unavailable in some poorer nations, or are at very low levels, sometimes 10% and under. So this particular drug could actually be a big game changer. Do you have a sense of what the relative price would be in a poorer nation?
So I can't disclose the price. These are subject to confidential discussions with the governments around the world. Mm-hmm. But what I can tell you, David, is we will have a strategy which will ensure that molnupiravir, upon approvals from all of the relevant regulatory bodies around the world, that they will have access and that affordability will be addressed, whether you're a low, medium, low or middle income country, or whether you're a high income country, through this global tiered pricing strategy. Again, that really is based on the World Bank data, which looks at every country's relatively ability to finance their pandemic response and their health systems.
Jennifer Chan, thank you very much.
Thank you, David.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.